I am Rachel, a part-time housewife in my late 20s. My husband, Tony, and I don't have children yet because I'm currently the deputy leader of an important project, and taking time off for a baby isn't an option for me. Additionally, Tony is also handling a significant work project, so we decided to wait until things settle down before starting a family. However, our peaceful life was shattered by an unexpected event. One night, Tony came home later than usual. He immediately undressed his suit and shirt, leaving them on the floor, and headed straight to the shower. Thinking it can't be helped, I picked up his suit, and a piece of paper fell out. Out of curiosity, I looked at it, and what I saw left me speechless with shock and anger. It seemed to be some sort of note that read, "I'll be waiting on the rooftop during lunch break. Let's make sure no one finds out about our affair." Although I wanted to confront Tony immediately, I decided to stay calm and put the note back in his pocket, thinking there might be more evidence to uncover. Little did I know that this small infidelity would lead to a major upheaval involving our entire family. After discovering Tony's affair, I did my own investigation. Hiring a private detective was too expensive for my current salary, so I gathered evidence myself. Eventually, I identified the mistress. Her name was Kathy, a 24-year-old recently hired as Tony's direct subordinate. Tony was her mentor, and their affair had been going on for several months. Despite Tony wearing his wedding ring and Kathy being aware of our marriage, they continued their illicit relationship. Unaware that I was collecting evidence of his infidelity, Tony nonchalantly praised my cooking at dinner, saying,
"Rachel, your cooking is the best in the world."
I forced a smile, knowing that revealing my investigation too soon would ruin all my efforts. Sometime later, my brother called me with surprising news. He said,
"I want to introduce you to the woman I want to marry."
My brother, in his early 30s and a section manager at a major company, had always been extremely busy, and I thought he might never marry. He planned a family dinner to introduce his fiancée and invited both Tony and me. Since Tony's company was a subcontractor for my brother's company, Tony agreed to attend, likely out of a sense of obligation. Though I was reluctant to introduce my philandering husband to my brother's future in-laws, I understood the timing and circumstances left me no choice. However, a few days later, Tony began acting unusually kind to me. He started bringing home my favorite desserts and sharing funny stories from work. This made me wonder if there was a chance to rebuild our relationship if Tony confessed and ended his affair completely. Although I had caught them together several times, their interactions were limited to meals and light physical contact, with no signs of a physical relationship yet. I hoped Tony had realized his mistake and stopped the affair, especially with my brother's important dinner approaching. I wanted to clear the air before the event. I waited for Tony to take the initiative, but aside from his increased kindness, he didn't mention anything. Recently, he hadn't gone out drinking and spent his weekends at home. We even went on a short day trip and enjoyed a high-end dinner together, making me let my guard down. However, my trust in my husband completely crumbled due to a certain incident. One evening, I went out for drinks with a friend. As we chatted over drinks and snacks, I confided in her about Tony's recent change and my thoughts of rebuilding our relationship. I asked, "He's been acting better lately, and I'm thinking of talking things through and rebuilding our marriage. What do you think?" My friend's eyes widened as she stared at something behind me. I followed her gaze and saw Tony, happily feeding his affair partner, Kathy, at a nearby table. The shock left me speechless. In this small town, rumors travel fast. My friend worked in the HR department at Tony's company and had heard whispers about their affair. However, she hadn't seen them together recently, and since Tony had been coming home early for my sake, she thought the rumors were just that, rumors. Seeing them together, though, left both of us at a loss for words. Snapping back to reality, my friend stood up, paid the bill, and dragged me outside. The winter air stung my cheeks as I finally comprehended the reality of what I had just witnessed. My friend's concerned words faded into the background as the image of Tony and Kathy lingered in my mind. She said,
"You mentioned Tony's been acting nice lately, like taking you on trips and dinners. Given that and the fact they haven't been seen together at work recently, maybe he knew you were on to him?"
I had been discreet in my investigations, and I hadn't confronted Tony about anything yet. The uncertainty of their actions made me incredibly anxious. My friend pulled me into a narrow alley as Tony and Kathy exited the bar, arm in arm, heading to Tony's car. My friend and I followed them, feeling a sense of dread as I recognized the route to our house. Tony pulled out his phone, operated it, and immediately, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Tony asking, "When will you be home tonight?" It was clear he was ensuring they wouldn't be caught. I replied, "I'll be home around 2 a.m., a lie to gather more evidence." Seeing my reply, Tony told Kathy,
Rachel won't be back until 2, so we can relax.
and they entered our home together. The sight made me nauseous, and I collapsed, barely held up by my friend. The thought of Kathy entering my home was unbearable. My friend encouraged me, saying,
"This is hard, but we need irrefutable evidence to confront them. Stay strong."
2 weeks later, the day of the family dinner arrived. After that night, I took paid leave from work and investigated Tony and Kathy thoroughly. Additionally, for the difficult task of tailing him alone, I hired a detective. That friend from back then turned out to be the daughter of a company president. She said,
"I'll help for Rachel's sake,"
and introduced me to a detective she knew. As a result, I was able to hire the detective at a very reasonable rate, and now it's time to make the two of them face reality. In fact, this dinner gathering is the stage for that. Why, you ask? You will soon find out. When I dramatically opened the door to the private room, I saw Tony and Kathy turn pale. Kathy, who was supposed to be my brother's fiancée, stared at me in shock. "Nice to meet you, Kathy. I'm a wife of Tony, your affair partner," I said with a forced smile. The atmosphere froze. Kathy stammered,
"What? Why are you? You've got the wrong idea. If that's the case, it's rude."
Her feigned ignorance snapped my patience. I thought, all right then, I see you're ready. I won't hold back anymore. "Stop pretending," I said, spreading photos of their affair on the table. Tony panicked, scrambling to gather the photos, while Kathy looked aghast. Kathy tried to defend herself.
"This is the engagement announcement dinner. This is inappropriate."
She shouted with her eyes wide open. However, that doesn't matter. Thanks to the detective's investigation, I knew that this woman, despite being engaged to my brother, was continuing an affair with my husband and deceiving my brother as well. I countered. What's truly inappropriate is deceiving my brother and continuing an affair with my husband. At my words, Kathy fell silent. I continued. "You've had affairs with married men before, right?" And at that moment, you pretended to be unaware, playing the victim to avoid compensation and shifting all the blame onto the man. Isn't that right? Kathy's expression showed she realized how much I knew. By hiring a detective, it's easy to find out such things. This time, in case I found out, she probably planned to pretend she didn't know anything and escape from paying compensation by putting on a crying act. I turned to Tony, who was trembling, and said, "You only acted nice to me because Kathy suggested it, didn't you?" Tony, teary-eyed, denied it.
No, Rachel, I only want you. It was a mistake. The relationship with her is over already. I was just enjoying the first few days. Please believe me.
I sighed, placing more damning photos on the table, evidence of their affair in our home. My parents were stunned, Tony was frantic, and Kathy turned red, trying to hide the photos.
Stop this.
Kathy pleaded. Of course, I don't want to see these kinds of photos either, and I certainly don't appreciate being labeled as a cheated-on wife. Nevertheless, my friend advised me that I needed to be bold to punish these two. Kathy glared at me with tears in her eyes, trembling.
Despicable. You're not the person I thought you were. This is way too much.
She grabbed my collar and said that, so I shook it off. You would escape again if I didn't expose you. Like last time. I heard you got away last time by pretending to have a hysterical fit.
No, it's not. That was...
At that moment, a loud slap echoed as Kathy's mother struck her face. In front of me, her mother slapped her across the cheek, and I saw Kathy freeze with a frantic look on her face.
What have you done? Apologize to Rachel.
She demanded, but Kathy resisted. Her father grabbed Kathy's head to force to bow, and he also bowed deeply, said,
I apologize sincerely for the terrible disrespect shown by my daughter. Please consider breaking off the engagement. I assure you that we will properly compensate Rachel, including returning the engagement ring and providing her with compensation. I am truly sorry.
As her parents bowed their heads in tears before us, she murmured in a voice as faint as a mosquito's,
Why am I being blamed?
In the end, today's meeting was interrupted, and it was decided to reschedule for another day to continue discussions. As we were leaving, seemingly indifferent now, Kathy revealed her true nature.
What's the deal here? Demanding compensation just because of a little fun. It's absurd. I can't forgive tearing apart our love like this.
She shouted wildly while our parents desperately tried to restrain her, drawing curious glances from passers-by. Oh, what an embarrassment she is, I thought to myself. Then, my brother stepped forward calmly.
Someone who can cheat so boldly isn't fit for marriage. Especially not someone who lays a hand on my sister's husband. And Tony, you better think about your position carefully.
After saying that to Kathy, he also directed a cold gaze toward my husband. Tony, shaking, apologized weakly,
I'm so sorry.
tears streaming down his face. Shortly thereafter, a meeting was arranged to discuss the broken engagement, our divorce, and the settlement for damages. After being thoroughly scolded by her parents, Kathy was completely subdued and silent. I stated, in our settlement, Tony will pay me alimony and we will divorce. You will also need to pay me damages. Kathy remained silent, but her parents responded,
We will make sure our daughter pays.
showing their willingness to comply. Although this should have been the end, I had something more to say. I contacted the wife of the previous victim you deceived and avoided paying damages to. She was furious when she learned the truth and plans to reissue her claim for damages. Kathy lifted her head and croaked.
No, that can't be. That was supposed to be over.
I replied coldly. You think it's over? You and Tony have no idea how deeply your actions have scarred others. Tony, who had been listening quietly, muttered.
I'm sorry.
Kathy, realizing the truth in my words, looked visibly distressed. In such a small town, having multiple affairs is quite bold. Regardless, you will pay the damages in full, I said, turning to leave. My family followed me without a word. I glanced back briefly to see Kathy's parents bowing deeply and Tony and Kathy staring in shock. Money alone couldn't resolve everything, but this was the best outcome. I took everything I could from Tony through alimony and asset division and divorced him. Their affair became known at work, leading to their transfer to different departments. However, the fact of the affair remains unchanged, and since it had already been rumored before, embellishments like apparently she was pregnant or apparently he was seeing 2 other people spread. Because of this, the 2 lost their place and reportedly resigned. Later, I heard that Tony, desperate for money, was arrested for fraud. Then, by chance, I happened to see the woman desperately working as a cashier at a supermarket. She looked completely different from her previous glamorous appearance, with a haggard and dark expression, being yelled at by her boss. This is the fate of the 2 who had an affair, but it's a case of reaping what they sowed. As for me, I apologized to my brother for ruining his engagement. But he said,
I'm glad I didn't marry someone with such secrets.
And comforted me. My parents reassured me that I had done the right thing, which brought me to tears. My friend, who had introduced the detective, joined me for a celebratory night out. I had feared judgment from my family for my actions, but instead, I felt supported and validated. Moving forward, I will continue to cherish those around me. To everyone watching, thank you for staying with me until the end. I love and appreciate you all. How did you find today's story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.
Back in my student days, he was the soccer team's star player and quite popular. What are you doing? Stop it. Stop. I protested as my husband forcibly shoved me into the car trunk. Despite my surprise and desperate resistance, he didn't relent. With a cold gaze, he closed the trunk. No. Let me out. My screams fell on deaf ears, and the car started moving. About an hour later, as the car came to a sudden stop, I heard a metallic crunching sound. Fear gripped me. What was that noise? Eventually, I realized it was the sound of the car being crushed. At that moment, I braced myself for the end. My childhood dream was to become a superhero. At 25, I became a lawyer and enjoyed fulfilling days. Noah, my high school classmate, and I got married when we were 29. I secretly admired him, but he went on to become a professional soccer player, and we drifted apart. At our class reunion, Noah confessed.
I used to like you, Sophia.
And we started dating. It felt like a dream. At that time, we were both 26. Despite retiring due to injury, Noah remained resilient. He and his friend Michael, who was also from the same pro team, organized soccer workshops for kids all over the country. Thanks to his fame as a player, the workshops were always fully booked. Noah's dream was to have his own soccer field and nurture future professional players there. I wanted to support him wholeheartedly. Count me in. Whatever I can do to help. He smiled and replied.
Having a capable lawyer on my side is reassuring.
The shadow fell over our once blissful life about a year into our marriage. It all started when I casually looked into Noah's company's financials. The company he co-founded with Michael was struggling due to understaffing, so I intended to help by examining the books. What I found raised suspicions. Noah's company raised funds from sponsors and personal fans to fulfill his dream of nurturing future professional soccer players. The balance should have been substantial, but it was clearly much lower than expected. What's this? So much unaccounted for money. Nearly half the funds are missing. I confronted Noah immediately. His face contorted in anguish as he confessed.
Michael seems to have embezzled it.
Apparently, Michael had retired from professional soccer around the same time Noah did due to poor performance. Yet, they remained close and worked together. Even if you're friends, embezzlement is wrong. We should report this to the police. I insisted. Noah sighed.
I know, but I don't want to betray a friend. I'll talk to him and try to recover the money.
But it's nearly $70,000.
Yeah. Anyway, can you trust me with this?
Despite my attempts to persuade him, Noah's pained expression left me unable to unilaterally involve the police. I didn't think Michael could repay the amount immediately, but I decided to trust my husband's judgment for now. However, when Noah confronted Michael about the embezzlement, Michael fled to his hometown, prompting my husband to set off in pursuit. He asked me to accompany him, citing the reassurance of having a lawyer present. Unfortunately, my work trip schedule overlapped, and I couldn't cancel due to meetings with clients. As a result, I arrived in Michael's hometown one day after my husband. Upon reaching the location specified in my husband's message, I found a desolate natural park. To my surprise, my husband wasn't there to greet me. Instead, it was Michael. What? Why are you here? Where's Noah? Despite my inquiry, he just grinned. Then, he circled behind me and suddenly tightened his grip around my throat. Ugh. At that moment of shock and pain, my mind went blank, but I quickly regained composure. You see, I've been practicing self-defense as a hobby, and it came in handy this time. After narrowly escaping Michael's grasp, I stomped on his instep with my heels several times. Then, I pushed him away as he stumbled, and I sprinted away with unwavering determination. Leaving the natural park behind, I reached a crowded city area, finally able to catch my breath. I considered going to the police immediately, but I decided to contact Noah first. Surprisingly, he was already back home. What happened? I went to the location you told me, and Michael tried to harm me. I exclaimed. Noah apologized profusely.
I'm sorry for putting you in danger. I wanted to explain the situation to you and have you persuade him, but I never expected Michael to go that far. My judgment was off. Please forgive me.
He then recounted the events leading up to this point. Michael denied embezzling the funds, which prompted Noah to return to the company and thoroughly investigate documents. Armed with decisive evidence, Noah planned to take it to the police.
We should also file a report about the attempt on your life as well. I'm sorry, but could you return home?
Wouldn't it be better to report it to the local police here?
Just come back home for now.
At my husband's pleading, I decided to return home for the time being. 3 hours later, just as I returned home, my husband greeted me at the front door.
We need to go to the police right away. Get in the car.
I placed my travel bags down and followed his instructions, heading toward our home's parking area. As I tried to get into the passenger seat, Noah, who had been inspecting the trunk, called out to me.
Take a look at this.
Curious, I stood beside him and peered into the trunk, wondering if it contained evidence of embezzlement. What? What are you doing? Stop. Stop. Without warning, my husband shoved me from behind, locking eyes with me coldly, and then closed the trunk. No. Please, let me out. No matter how loudly I screamed, my voice reached no one. The car started moving slowly, gradually picking up speed. About an hour later, I sensed that we had parked somewhere. Trembling with fear inside the cramped trunk, I suddenly heard a metallic crunching sound. What was that noise? My heart raced until I realized it was the sound of the car being crushed. Even with self-defense training, I couldn't possibly contend with heavy machinery. But giving up wasn't an option. Amid the chaos, I desperately thought of ways to survive. Desperate to escape the trunk, I kicked the trunk's latch area with all my might. Luckily, the lock seemed to break, creating a small gap. I forced the door open, stuck my head out, and found myself in an auto junkyard. I hurriedly escaped the trunk and leaped from the pile of awaiting scrap cars. With no one in sight, I sprinted toward what seemed like an exit. As I considered seeking help from the police, I noticed Michael talking on his phone. Concealing myself in the shadows, I eavesdropped on his conversation. He casually mentioned,
I confirmed the car got crushed. She's gone now.
And then he blamed for my husband marrying a lawyer. It became clear, the person on the other end was Noah. My husband and Michael had conspired to eliminate me. If they discovered I was still alive, they'd surely try again. Before heading to the police, I needed to avoid their clutches. For now, I had to hide. Despite my fear, I felt a stronger desire to expose the truth. After all, I was a lawyer. A childhood dream of becoming a champion of justice had driven me. Sneaking out of the processing yard, I realized my smartphone was still in my pocket. I decided to contact my best friend, Mia. I arrived promptly at her apartment, where I recounted everything that had happened. Initially surprised, she eventually said,
I suspected as much. Actually, there have been some rumors about your husband.
As a TV director, Mia had access to various industry secrets. With her help, we delved into Noah's background. One by one, Noah's hidden facets emerged. Even though he was my husband, I couldn't turn a blind eye to his wrongdoing. Determined to uphold justice as a lawyer, I resolved to bring him to account. While hiding in Mia's apartment and making preparations, something caught our attention on the television screen.
Sophia, watch TV.
Upon hearing that, I looked at the television screen. The headline read, Beautiful lawyer wife missing. My husband appeared, looking worn and tearful, pleading for information.
My wife left for work and hasn't returned. Her phone is off. Please provide any information you have.
Mia, with a sarcastic tone, remarked,
Quite the actor. Your husband, Sophia.
It infuriated me. How could he feign concern after attempting to take my life? His tearful performance continued daily on TV, not only appealing for information but also promising to create a soccer school in my honor when I returned. His hypocrisy knew no bounds. And so, about a month later, while hiding in Mia's apartment, Noah appeared as a guest on a daytime live broadcast program.
I believe my wife will return. And for when she does, I want to make the soccer school a reality.
As usual, he appealed for information about my whereabouts and continued to promote his dream. But just as his comment ended, the show's host exclaimed,
Now, introducing a surprise guest.
Noah, caught off guard, looked surprised. Spotlights illuminated the studio entrance curtain, and I signaled a victory pose to Mia before stepping out from behind the curtain. The moment Noah saw me, his expression twisted in shock. Ignoring him, the host declared,
Our surprise guest is Sophia, the wife who had gone missing.
Applause erupted in the studio, but Noah remained dumbfounded, staring at me. His lack of joy was evident, and the host looked suspicious. Realizing this, Noah stammered.
I'm just surprised.
Meanwhile, in the back of the studio, Mia nodded approvingly. Indeed, Mia was the director in charge of this program. She had informed all the show's participants about Noah's hidden side beforehand. So, naturally, the host knew everything, yet he feigned ignorance and asked me,
Where have you been all this time, Sophia?
I replied, I was in hiding. My life was in danger. As I answered, the celebrities present gasped dramatically, exclaiming, What? The host also remarked.
That's quite an intense story.
Then, he turned to Noah and asked.
Were you unaware of any of this?
Noah stammered.
I didn't know, of course.
Sensing the scrutiny around him, he hurriedly approached me, his tearful face attempting to embrace me.
Sophia. I'm relieved you're safe. I was worried.
But I pushed his outstretched hand away. The show's host chimed in.
Huh. We were expecting a heartwarming reunion, but things seem different.
An empty sentiment indeed. I stepped away from my husband and addressed the camera. Today, I'm not your wife. I'm here as a lawyer. Noah stammered.
What are you saying? Oh, right. I need to let everyone know my wife is safe.
As he tried to leave the studio, 2 staff members blocked his escape. Amidst laughter from the audience, Noah glared at me.
What's going on? I just wanted to make a phone call.
Where do you intend to contact? As I smirked, he hesitated for a moment, then sulkily rattled off, speaking rapidly.
Family, acquaintances, your work colleagues.
I smirked. No need. This is a nationwide live broadcast. Everyone's watching. His lips tightened in frustration. The host then said,
Now, introducing a certain video.
And that triggered the appearance of interviews with parents of children who participated in my husband's soccer school. First, a woman who appeared to be a mother stepped forward, tearfully recounting,
I was pressured into an inappropriate relationship by being promised that my child would become a regular player.
Next, a man who seemed to be a father appeared. He claimed that he was asked for a large sum of money to recommend his child to a famous club team, but the promise was never fulfilled. His anger trembled in his voice.
No, this is all fabricated. It's a lie.
As 2 staff members held him, my husband shouted, once again becoming the studio's laughingstock. It's not a lie. Although their faces and voices are concealed in this footage, they've promised to testify with their real names when we report you to the police. I asserted firmly, and the host nodded, emphasizing.
So, this amounts to fraud, right?
Yes. It's a serious crime. But that's not all. As I spoke, interviews with acquaintances of Michael began to play. The witness testified that my husband and Michael became obsessed with gambling, squandering most of the funds they had collected for the soccer school. Secretly recorded footage revealed them spending an entire day at the racetrack, celebrating and agonizing over horse races.
Occasionally betting on horse racing isn't a big deal.
As my husband sulked, the next video played. It showed them similarly engrossed in betting at cycling and boat racing tracks. While gambling itself is legal in legal betting, misusing funds collected for another purpose is a crime. I explained. The studio audience gasped as Michael's acquaintance made an even more shocking statement in the footage. Former soccer players involved in illegal soccer gambling. It's outrageous.
No. Michael was the one doing it. I'm innocent.
Yet Noah's defense crumbled, revealing that he was central to the gambling activities. Worse still, the losses drove them to plan becoming soccer gambling operators to recoup their losses. The intention behind wanting to open a local soccer school was to conceal their true purpose. What they truly planned was an underground soccer gambling den. By running a children's soccer school during the day, they aimed to deceive everyone. I declared.
No. Stop making things up.
His murmured words lacked conviction, barely audible. But I pressed on, unwavering, ready for my final move. Cameras are everywhere these days. Committing a crime isn't so easy. I declared. The final footage showed my husband at an auto junkyard, arranging the disposal of our car. Later, when the footage showed me crawling out of the trunk just as the scrap machine threatened to crush it, the entire studio erupted in surprise. Michael's figure, making a call near the entrance, confirmed their joint effort to eliminate me. As you can see, my husband and Michael attempted to crush me along with the car. I asserted. My husband, now pale, mumbled in denial. The broadcast ended, but the aftermath was intense. The news ran the story daily, and reporters hounded my husband relentlessly. Afterward, I divorced Noah and claimed $20,000 in compensation. Both he and Michael faced questioning for various crimes. When my husband's arrest was imminent, Mia and I quietly celebrated. I downed my glass in one go, and she winked at me.
Next time, catch an even better man.
No, for now, I'll focus on my work, upholding justice as a lawyer. Indeed, that had been my dream since childhood.
How did you find this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time in the next video.